Hi, this is Sarah Mikesell with the Cattle Site, and today we're here with Dr. Drew Magstadt. He is a veterinary diagnostician at Iowa State Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory. Thanks for being with us today, Drew.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Very good. And today, Drew and I are in Celina, Ohio at the 2025 Beef on Dairy Producer Summit put on by the Mitten Veterinary Service, a partner of 4-Star Veterinary Service. So, Drew, you were one of our speakers today. And you spoke about disease challenges. Share some of the highlights from your presentation.
Sure, yeah. So my presentation was started with some of the disease trends that we're seeing in cattle in the Iowa State Vet Diagnostic Lab. So we're seeing a little bit more from a BVD standpoint, a little bit more BVD pressure or detection over the last probably 6 years, and then in general, I spoke about some of the challenges for enteric disease, some of the trends in enteric disease. We're seeing a little bit more rotavirus than we have in the past, and from a respiratory standpoint, I talked a little bit about how important it is to really focus on preventing stresses and keeping the lung as healthy as it can be, so it can do its job and the immune system can take over and really help with the respiratory disease.
Very good. And let's talk a little bit about high-path avian influenza, because it's obviously impacted the poultry industry widely, but we've also seen it hit the dairy industry as well. Tell us a little bit on how beef on dairy may be impacted or what this might mean for that industry.
Sure, yeah. Yes, luckily high-path avian influenza in cattle has died down considerably.
Yeah.
We've learned a lot in the last 2 years, coming up on 2 years. Still a lot to learn, a lot of unanswered questions. From one of the things that has been learned, particularly when it comes to calves, is that several groups have challenged calves with milk from infected animals,
Right.
and the calves have developed really very mild diseases, nasal discharge, some fevers. Really does not seem to be a major pathogen when fed to calves. Pasteurization works. Pasteurization should be practiced. And certainly can help prevent infections. But even if our pasteurization protocols don't work, it doesn't seem to cause a major disease in calves.
Very good. And New World screwworm is moving closer to the United States, coming up from Latin America into Mexico. It's maybe a couple hundred miles from the Texas border. Tell us a little bit more about that pathogen as you know it.
Sure. Yeah, New World screwworm. It's a little bit of a misnomer. It's not really a worm. It's
Right.
the larva of a fly that does the damage. It's very different in that the larva actually feeds on live tissue. A lot of fly larvas will clean up dead tissue. This one is on live tissue, so it gets into and infects wounds, castration sites, dehorning sites, things like that. Can get into the eye, things like that. The big issue that I see coming with it is if it would get to the United States would be from an animal movement standpoint. A lot of the
Right.
discussions along high-path avian influenza were about continuity of business. How can I move my milk? Can I move cull cows with that? New World screwworm would be very similar. Similar discussions would have to be had because the disease would be transmitted by movement of live animals, potentially infected live animals. So, how do we continue the dairy and beef industry, and how do we meet the needs of dairy calves in an infected site that is maybe under quarantine or that is maybe doesn't have the capability of taking care of calves on site since they've always moved them off site. So a lot of those same questions would come up very quickly were that to cross the border.
Right, and that's under discussion right now, it sounds like, right? Is how do you make it so a dairy or a facility could house 30 to 100 plus baby calves who's not used to doing that, right?
Sure. Yeah, a lot of discussions. I'm sure I'm not in on those discussions,
Right.
but from the state veterinarians, the state animal health officials, USDA would be under discussions to how would we manage an outbreak here,
Right.
given it's been 60 years since the fly was up in the United States, and industries have changed immensely in those 60 years.
Very good. Excellent. Anything else you want to add? Any other disease highlights that are exciting for the industry that you wanted to point out?
Well, luckily, no. I guess
Great.
we've had a few new things come up in the last couple of years that have really made us question, or really had us dealing with questions that we haven't had to deal with in a long time,
Right.
particularly with high path and then with the New World screwworm. So. No, I just want to say thanks for having me, and yeah, very much appreciated it.
Very good. Thanks so much for your time today. This is Sarah Mikesell with the Cattle Site.